Hello, Internet friend. I'm David Ravel, and this is Value Sign for Wednesday, September 20. For all of our articles and podcasts, visit valuesign.com. Well, today, the UN's goal for sustainable development. Is it worth the investment? Well, I confess that I'm an annual meeting fanatic. I really enjoy attending these once-in-a-year meetings of management and shareholders. It's the recap of the past 12 months, and the best opportunity I know to really get to know the people who run the organization and to catch a glimpse of their personalities and what they have planned for the future. Just such a meeting occurred on Monday, although it lacks some of the formality and detail of the annual meetings for public companies that we have here in the U.S. The occasion was the 15th anniversary of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It's the halfway point of a program that was envisioned to be completed in the year 2030, just over 6 years from now. That's just the sort of precision that investors look for, specific goals with a time set to achieve them. Unfortunately, in too many of the Sustainable Development Goals, I find that there are at least two variables, meaning that the goal could be achieved by either improving one factor or a decline in the other factor. General equality, that's sustainable goal number 5, is like that. In that case, more equality may be achieved either by an improvement in the economic outlook for women or a decline in the economic outlook for men. And the same can be said for sustainable development goal number 10, reduced inequalities. So let's look at 3 of the 17 sustainable development goals using data from the U.S. Federal Reserve to see how the 3 most pivotal goals are working out so far. Sustainable Development Goal number 1 is poverty, and the goal here is to eliminate extreme poverty. Their measure is the World Bank's International Poverty Line. The concept is that the poorest among us receive sufficient monies to provide for one's basic necessities, food, clothing, and shelter. In 2022, extreme poverty was defined as living on less than $1.90 per day and ranges up as high as $5.50 per day in some of the higher income countries. Here, the United Nations finds the same results as we observed in the United States. Poverty is increasing, not decreasing. While the United Nations reports that poverty has increased by 7% in the last couple of years worldwide, poverty in the U.S. rose by less than 1%. With just 7 years left to eliminate poverty, this task is becoming all the more difficult. Now, Sustainable Development Goal number 2 is to have zero hunger in the world. The goal here, to eliminate global hunger. There are several dimensions to how the UN looks at providing food for the world's population, including sustainable farming practices and particular nutrition requirements. But we can use price as a reasonable approximation of the intersection between supply and demand. And with the world's population steady, an increase or decrease in price probably reflects an increase or decrease in supply. Again, using the Federal Reserve's data, the global price of food has increased by roughly 40% from 2015 to now. The food supply has taken a giant reversal in the 7 years of the Sustainable Development Goals. While there may be exogenous factors involved, such as the COVID-19 panic, it can be said that the U.S. is not meeting the challenge of global hunger. Sustainable Development Goal number 7 is energy. Now here, the United Nations estimates that 800,000 people live without electricity globally. The UN's target is to provide primary electric usage using clean, in other words, renewable energy sources. And again, price provides us with that intersect between supply and demand. From 2015 until 2013, the global price of energy has risen by 44%. Yet another Sustainable Development Goal that is drifting away, becoming less likely rather than more likely. Now, speaking before the UN on Monday, Secretary General Antonio Guterres indicated that 30% of the Sustainable Development targets are now below the levels needed to meet their 2030 goal. And many of these goals are actually lower than they were before. This is a project that's off the rails, and more appears that it will fail. So what's the answer to this less than stellar track record? Why, money, of course. Sustainable Development Goal number 17 is partnership. It's apparent that the United States, as well as other UN member countries, must become more of a, quote, partner in this plan. Currently, the U.S. provides $12.5 billion per year for UN operations, plus a few more billion here and there for any special needs that the UN may come up with. But under goal number 17, we need to be much more of a partner, to the tune of 7/10 of our nation's economic output. Although that doesn't sound like much, that 7/10 number of this year's GDP would reach an astounding $178 billion. That's a lot of money for a project that isn't working. And that's the value side for Wednesday, September 20. For all of our articles and podcasts, visit valueside.com. I'm David Ravel. ValueSide is independently written and researched. The views expressed are strictly my own.